paying attention. So it does have a huge effect. It can have a huge effect. I think we'll be talking a little bit about different sports. You know, we have other sports that have gotten greyhound racing. Got shut down a lot by the public inquiry into the practices. And I think it's 45 states now. Keith, I don't know. Do you know that number? I think it's 45 states that it's illegal now, greyhound racing. When you think about the marine animal situations that they're dealing with, SeaWorld and all that kind of stuff, that has had a huge effect on that industry. You know, and we could all say rightfully so or whatever, but it's just had an effect because the organizations wouldn't pay enough of attention along the line to realize that the public arguments were as strong as they were. So it's just kind of a snapshot, and this is kind of the, you know, you know most of you probably know the kind of 5 steps of trauma, right? You know, with loss and things like that. So it's a little bit the same thing. Do you admit it? There's nothing wrong. Can we then getting into the place where we can we make changes and can we make it work instead of just denying it? And this is very much the stages of what we go through, right? And having conversations around like this and having conversations just with different organizations, there are still quite a lot of organizations that even out in the field that are not dealing with it that deny it, right? No, we're cool, we got it, we're covered, we're good. And then suddenly the train comes down the track. So can we make it work? That's kind of, I believe, where we are, and how can we make that work? It's starting to go there, and then the never-ending thing of, are we happy about what our results are, right? And how do we measure it, right? How do we get into a place where we actually, from the public side, know that we're doing the jobs that we need to do, right?
One of the gals I spoke with said the hardest thing for her was compassion burnout. That she gets to the point that she can't do anymore because she doesn't have the money to do it. And the toll it takes on her is immense. We have to find another way to do it. Paddock fees vary. One racetrack does $10, another one does $50. How we get money into the system to help support and transition these horses, I think is one of our biggest problems. And when we talk about how to grow the business, how to grow the resources, we talk about an industry that's contracting, and at the same time, we talk about escalating costs associated with transitioning because of the increased costs of food, medical care, board, personnel. How do we make up that gap? People say, well, the one area that we maybe can grow is wagering. Can we take something out of that? People have said, you know, we want to go, every place has something sort of unique that they try to do. They try to get the veterinarians to chip in a little bit of the Lasix fees that they charge, or, you know, there's always something. But until we can address that, and I don't know if there can be a uniform way because there's such a diversity in the way that we deal with it. But I think that's one of the greatest challenges that face us in trying to do what's right for the horses as they transition.
And one of the things that we really wanted to uplift is this appearance of animal control. Over many, many decades, we've been working as animal control officers to really be more resource-based when addressing concerns with community members and not being thought of as this weaponized mechanism for enforcement. And what that means when we're working with community members, whether it's working through a cat herding situation or going out to a property and finding a bunch of horses with poor body condition scoring, or maybe being housed in a condition that's concerning. So they might look good, but maybe the conditions surrounding them are substandard and in accordance with the local ordinance or state law, is determining best next steps forward. And a lot of that time it's meeting families where they are. And so when I talk to professional horse owners, we talk about ways to create mechanized systems of support for community members who are having a hard time in the maintenance and care standards of their pets. And so when we're working through that, remembering we have hay banks in my state in Virginia, and those things like that are really important mechanisms for ensuring that there's a safety net, because any person in any situation your life can evolve to a crisis in which you're struggling to care for any animal that you own, including your maintenance of yourself and your family. And one of the things that I've been talking with animal control officers about is thinking outside the box. So in supporting one another, sometimes, yes, the instinct is maybe we need more hay banks and maybe we need these other things, but remembering that support can be varied during that process. But a lot of the time it's building that trust with the community, because when you go out as an animal control officer, if you move to immediate seizure of animals, that person's going to talk to someone else. And then the community doesn't trust you anymore to come forward before it gets too bad. And really we need to be the first people through the door, trying to advocate for those people. And so when we were talking about it professionally, that is why I'm here, to talk about what those outcomes can sometimes look like. And then additionally, what resources look like. I encourage looking outside of the norm and remembering that refeeding programs and seizures and holding on to animals for court processes, they benefit no one, not even the animal control agencies that are doing that work.
I think animal welfare is fast becoming the major challenge in our equine industry. And if we don't believe it, read about HISA. And look at what APHA's done with an animal welfare committee and other organizations. It is a huge issue, and it's because of the public, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. We don't want to believe that we have a problem, and we don't want to believe that they're going to help with it. And the fact of the matter is we do have a problem. We have a problem in all of our breeds, and we have to accept that and go about fixing it. Don't ever forget this, young lady. When you go back home, when you're training horses, whatever, don't forget that young lady right there. She's our conscious and most important young people today are our future. And if we don't believe that, we're missing the boat. We're intimidated by those that are abusing. We simply are afraid to stand up and say that's wrong. If you're a leader in the industry, you have to be willing to stand up and say, no, that's wrong. Do not do that. Okay? If you don't have courage, you can't be a leader. More and more people have the same vision for animal welfare as they do their children, as they do for themselves, as they do for their neighbor. And if we don't realize that as an industry, we're in trouble.
But in the thoroughbred, racing to other careers, that's a clear demarcation. You're a racehorse one day and you're something else the next, or you're transitioning to something else. And I think that that's a shining example of where we're making positive inroads. And I think it's a glorious story as far as the welfare of the horse and how we as people who care about the horses are taking that long-term view of being responsible.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'd like to say right now is to really thank David. I mean, he made a comment about people were telling him he was ruining the sport. And you've got to have courage to stand up above that. And if there are a lot of leaders who see what they're not comfortable with but are willing to stand up, it's going to make a difference. And Dr. Hurd talked about the executive committees in our organizations, but also high-level competitors that people look to. And if they're willing to stand up, it's going to make a difference. And I love Janet's comment. We talk about this a lot about, putting the positive out there. There's so many great stories. I know everybody likes the bad things on the news, but there are so many great human interest stories here.
Yeah, I fully agree with that, because that's that comment about not just what do we do for horses, but what do horses do for humans.
Exactly.
I think that is a story that just has to be told over and over and over again. For that picture, Dr. Hurd's picture, and on down. One of the questions I always ask from Top Sport with parents that get kids, the youth into it and all that good stuff, why pick this? Why not the tennis racket? Why not the golf club? Why are you picking horses? And I'm talking about billionaires down to the mother pulling the rusted old trailer, that they're using whatever discretionary income that they have in order to make sure that my kid is around a horse because of what it teaches them. And I don't think that's the difference between Bill Gates and the mother in Oklahoma. I don't think there's any difference, because they realize the benefit of what the horse does, especially as Dr. Hurd talked about, to the youth. Very good. I think one of those things is obviously there's a lot of thought and passion in the room from different industries and all that, whether we talk about from a sport point of view, we talk about it from a recreational point of view, or we talk about from a racing point of view. There's a lot of passion, a lot of intellect, a lot of thought processes to go down to it. And I think conversations like this happening here, right, and conversations that happen around the world in all the different environments that we all are a part of in the organizations that we have to make sure that we, as was said before, we have to make sure that we listen and we hear, and what are the action items that organizations can take to make sure that these equine beings are part of human society for now and for the, not just the near future, but for the long-term future. All right, I want to thank very much Julie for about putting this together. Thank you very much to our panelists. And this is an ongoing conversation, right? And a never-ending conversation. So I really do believe that we keep going down this journey. We now know that there's a road that needs to be traveled, and hopefully we'll all start to travel that road together. Thank you.
Another huge, super exciting conversation that I've been a part of is increased collaboration. So recently we had someone reach out to us from Virginia, and she's looking to create an alliance of rescues and networks and all these other groups to help create something very similar to the Colorado Unwanted Horse Alliance. So they were absolutely fascinating to speak with. They've done amazing things for their state. So we connected our Virginia volunteer with KUHA and also with our Equine Welfare Data Collective to have this. It was just a meeting of the minds. We went way over time, because that's what horse people do. So here, we're working now to create a holistic approach to helping at-risk horses by creating these partnerships with all of our key stakeholders in the states. So these would be like our ACOs, the Department of Agriculture, our horse councils, so you guys would be bothered by us soon. Our veterinarians, rescues, and sanctuaries, and then states can use their license plate, the checkoff program, to help fund these. So I'm really excited to be a part of this, and Jennifer was on our panel, and she was phenomenal, so she'll be hearing from me shortly, probably at dinner. Another big important project that we are working on is our UHC, the Crisis Hotline or Virtual Assistance Hotline. So the ASPCA has generously given us a grant to research the need for a 1-800 hotline. Here, our virtual assistant. So here, we're in an early fact-finding and researching stage to see if this is something that we can potentially take on, if there's a need for it, and how we can financially sustain it over the next several years. So first, we'll look to determine the needs of the owner, network with their existing resources out there to help get them connected with the resources they need. So we can also utilize the data that we have collected and we have coming in through our Equine Welfare Data Collective. So we're also looking at better tracking capabilities on our website to see where geographically people are coming from and what their needs are. Do they need feed assistance and more in certain parts of the country, emergency services? And so logically, this is kind of our next step to being accessible and reaching more people. Finally, these are our reasons for rehoming, which are also, I love data, so all of it's very interesting to me. But we can see the top reasons are a change in the owner's financial status or their own health. So here again, we're looking at promoting responsible ownership. What happens when something happens to you? If you lose your job, can you afford to feed your horse? If you are injured and unable to go out and care for your horse, what do you do? So by looking at these stats, we can say, okay, we need to help owners. The resources are available. Here's where we need to focus on those resources and helping owners to overcome these issues. I'm from Boston, so I talk fast. So I do want to thank you for your time and your support and for staying here today. The best way to really support the UHC and our mission is to obviously become a member, donate when you can, share our message, so share it through social media, and of course the biggest thing you can do is lead by example of being a responsible owner together. We can help keep the statistics on our side, which sadly also includes thinking about what happens to you when when what happens to your horse when something happens to you. We've got our little video here.
We kicked off a campaign about a year or so ago called hashtag Here for Horses. You heard a little bit about it at last year's conference. The objectives of that were to create lifelong engagement with the equine industry, and we have launched a website, and we've done quite a bit of PR around this in social media, and we're very pleased with the way the campaign is going. If you want to check us out, we did a podcast in January called From Horse Curious to Horse Crazy, and it was all about what the Here for Horses campaign is about. And there's a QR code if you want to find a link. We have been fortunate for the past 2 semesters to have an outstanding intern assigned to the Marketing Alliance, and she has compiled a little video that she's using on social media that I hope is going to play.
I'm Ward Stutz. I'm the Director of Breed Integrity for the American Quarter Horse Association. As a kid, I remember growing up watching Westerns and falling in love with horses. They became my passion and ultimately my purpose in life. They've certainly taught a few life lessons over the years. For me, it's been responsibility and confidence. So we really want you to get involved with horses. So check out Here for Horses website.
I'm Stephanie. This is Lily. Horses are my profession, but they're also my hobby. They keep me sane. They're part of my soul. If you've never been around them, I highly recommend it.
Hi, I'm Melissa Kitchen, and I'm president of the Equine Network Foundation. I've been lucky enough to have horses for my entire life, and I can't tell you all they've done to enrich my life. Now I'm lucky enough to have a career in the horse industry where I get to serve and protect those horses every day. I think everybody should have the opportunity to be around a horse, to smell them, to touch them, to ride them.
Hi, my name's Adam Dario. I'm the director of the Temple Grandin Equine Center and the associate director of equine sciences at Colorado State University. When I think about the impact that horses have made on my life, it's hard to say anything other than they're part of my culture. They're who I am and they're my fiber. Personally, I've been part of the competition industry for 30 years, showing, owning, and training horses. And professionally, I've been part of the equine assisted service industry as an administrator and now at a higher education institution for about 25 years. So horses are who I am. And horses can be for anybody. They can be for everyone. They are for everyone.
Horses have done so much for me. They have brought me around the world. I have visited a multitude of different countries specifically to learn more about the thoroughbred racing industry.
I wanted to come on here and tell you guys a little bit about what horses mean to me. Horses are a huge part of my life. I was blessed to be able to grow up with horses in my backyard, and they are currently still the most important thing in my life. They make my soul and my heart happy.
Ms. Marilyn Bertera. I'm a United States Trotting Association member from Michigan. I grew up on a farm and inherited my love for standardbred horses from my dad.
Hi, I'm Katie Ike from the Harness Horse Safety Foundation, and horses have changed my life for the better.
I'm Julie Broadway, president at the American Horse Council in Washington, D.C. Horses have played an important role in both my personal and professional life. Initially involved with trail riding, competing, offering my assistance and volunteering at local horse club events, and managing a regional horse show, I later transitioned into a leadership role in the equine industry. It was my hope that by contributing back to the equine industry, I could help ensure its long-term success. I guess it's safe to say I'm #here for horses.
I'm Katie Ike, and I'm here for horses.
I'm Marilyn Bertera. I'm here for horses.
I'm Adam Dario. I'm here for horses.
I'm Melissa Kitchen, and I'm here for horses.
I'm Ward Stutz, and I'm here for horses.
I'm Stephanie Ruff, and this is Lily, and we're here for horses.
I'm Anise Von Pleasure. I am here for horses, and I hope that you'll join us in this amazing industry.
So a little bit of history on the new horse protection final rule was in 2017, there was a proposed rule put out, technically 2016, they put out a 2017 proposed rule. And when the new incoming administration came in, when that proposed rule was sitting out for public inspection, they said anything currently sitting out for public inspection needs to be pulled off the Federal Register. And that's what happened. Ultimately, it was determined through a lawsuit that that was illegal and that did not follow protocol. So it was demanded that the 2017 proposed rule be readmitted to the Federal Register last year for public comment. But during that time, between the proposed rule being put on the Federal Register in 2017, it being pulled and then put back on last year, there was a whole host of research that came out and different evaluations and reviews of protocols and procedures for the Horse Protection Act. One of the sets of research that came out was in 2021 on detecting soring in sored horses, and that really based a lot of the decision making for the new scarring rule that came out, the new scar rule and the scar detection rule. So what happened was the 2017 rule was put back on the Federal Register last summer for comment. The comment period closed. They were saying they were withdrawing it. That comment period closed, and they immediately threw up the new 2023 rule, kind of in successions. So the new rule was out for comment, and then it was finalized this spring on April 29th. So they gave themselves about 30 days until that deadline. In the new rule, there are several notable items. One is they are replacing the current designated qualified persons system, the inspector systems, with a new inspector system called horse protection inspectors. They are intended to be APHIS veterinarians, and then there's kind of a level of tiers for other authorized inspectors. They've broadened the list of prohibited substances and equipment that can be used with a horse. They've prohibited all action devices and non-therapeutic wedges, pads, toe extensions, kind of anything that applies to that. One thing to note too is on page 3 of the rule in a footnote, they've defined racking horse as a breed. So it doesn't apply to any horse that racks, as racking horses are noted in the final rule. It's intended to only include racking horses as a breed. And again, there's update to the SCAR rule based on the new evidence that was released in that 2021 paper, and also updates to record keeping and reporting requirements.
Good morning. As you just heard from Julie and Emily, regulatory business has been good this year, legislative not so much. In preparing for this, I went through some newsletter articles we did and some headlines from some of the publications we read, and this is what it was like. Chaos, it's just, the whole speaker issue was just whack-a-mole. A name would come up, push down, another name come up. Then it seemed that the ship was steering away from the danger shoals, and we started to move. They finally passed the budget, back in March, and tomorrow night they will do the first cut at the USDA budget for fiscal year 2025. But they've been a little late. The good news is that the Farm Bill came out of the committee, and it did come out in a bipartisan fashion, not by much, but he did a great job trying to shepherd it and trying to get some Democratic support. And right now, the thought is that it will hit the floor of the House in September for full discussions. And I'm going to sell our economic impact study because we took that into staff and members, and I think surprised them with just what this industry contributes to the economy at large. And we used the impact statement to ask for the horse census. As Emily explained, not all horses get counted. So we are very happy that they are going to establish a commission on National Agricultural Statistics Service, and we want on that commission. So for those of you who are going to the Hill tomorrow, that is a phrase that must come out of your mouth at some point, because it's really important to us. We'd asked for $15 million, both in the Farm Bill and in the Ag Appropriations. And these are some of the items we asked for in appropriations. The horse protection regulation came in a little low in past, so we plussed up our ask. And there's a big number for the equine survey and small ruminant health. That's mostly dedicated for chronic wasting disease, and that money's going to go out to states for them to deal with the testing, the carcass, all of that. So as excited as it is to see that $30 million next to the equine, there's not a lot. We did ask again to have a line item for equine so we can see where the money goes, because right now it's impossible to find how it comes out of the budget for horses. We've also asked for the veterinary medicine loan repayment program and a big number for the marketing assistance program. So again, Tuesday night we'll have a better idea where we are on these.
So let me just add a layer onto this. So you're seeing some common themes amongst all of the players that are here. At the American Horse Council, we concentrate on legislative and regulatory issues at the federal level. We partner with our state horse councils on state issues, much like what Mark described. We tend to not get involved tremendously with international issues, but there are times when that occurs. We had an issue come up in the Import-Export Committee this year. That was a piece of legislation that was moving through Canada that was about air transport of horses. And the committee said, hey, we want to weigh in on this. And we said, okay, we'll write a letter and express our opinion, that kind of thing. So we do have examples of very specific international things that are going on, but certainly we work a lot on workforce and visa programs. A couple of our coalitions are very involved in trade, and so they're always asking us what are the implications for businesses and manufacturers in our space. Are they feeling some pinch points? What do we need to do about that? So we also get involved in some of that. Jeff, what's the key to advocacy success for ASAB?
Besides me, you mean?
Yeah, besides you.
No, I'm much more modest usually. I think I would actually say my boss, Mary Kate, you might know her.
Oh,
Mary Kate.
Kate.
Yeah, she's great. She just had a baby, that's why I'm here. I mean, she's very good at surveying the field, you know, not just from a policy and political standpoint, but, you know, the coalitions that were mentioned earlier. I mean, that is such a critically important facet, you know, and just the connections of all the dots, you know, and I'm not trying to be cute here, but stakeholders associating with each other, you know, truly, in a way that's meaningful, you know, not just sending an email, but working together, accomplishing things together. So I think she's got a great view of that, and kind of lets folks on her team, kind of go forth, and we've just got a level-headed operation over there that I think bodes well generally.
Yeah, I really wanted you guys to get to know Jeff and ASAE. I'm a certified association executive. I've been very involved with ASAE over the years. Several of you out there are too, and they have fantastic tools and resources for lots and lots of things as an association executive. So that's my plug for you.
Thank you so much.
And but I'll tell you right now, members of Congress could give a crap. I mean, they care what I have to say, I guess. I'll try to be humble, but they really care about our members. And so, in this town, being an organization that can lead with your story, I think that story is an important thing to tell. This is a storytelling town. You're going to be able to capture members of Congress, their attention and their heart by talking about issues that are local. And so being able to embrace the grassroots and the locally led part of our organization tends to give our organization the power that it has. And so we lead with our grassroots. I think where our organization, or what we do in my team here in Washington, is really focused on the strategy and the service back to our members, helping them be effective in what they do, training them to be strong advocates, to be able to tell their story more effectively, not only to lawmakers, because that's just one part of a stool. You've got to be able to tell that story to the media. If you're not telling that story in the media, you're losing. Okay, you got to tell that story to regulators that are cutting rules and regs each and every day. You can get cut pretty quickly with a bad set of regulations. You got to work the courts. If you're not working the courts, again, you're missing out on an important part of advocacy. And so, and I'd say the last piece of that stool, which is oftentimes not talked about, but it's the corporate side of advocacy. There are boardrooms, there are people making decisions in boardrooms and companies across the country that can have a bigger impact on your industry than the United States Congress can do. And so again, being able to work effectively across not only your own memberships, but being able to partner, I think is incredibly wise. We lean on organizations that are represented here, ASCAE, and the work that you all do, to be able to leverage not only our voice, but to come together through coalition building. It can be a very, very effective tool in what we do to be able to not only talk about the voice of agriculture, but to be able to have a broad set of industries representing the American economy. That's very powerful when you're trying to move mountains here in Washington.
First of all, for those that have not heard this presentation, the important thing to know is methodology. So when you do an economic impact study, you are surveying the stakeholders in your industry through a series of surveys to understand your industry. This is not a census. We do not go out and count every horse. This comes from the survey respondents. So I want to talk a little bit about that. And then I've got some key metrics that I'm going to share with you. So I always like to start off at the top. Let's see. Okay, the really good news is that what we learned through this last economic impact study is that 30.48% of all U.S. households, which translate to 39 million households, contain a horse enthusiast. That tells us we're relevant, we've got a great market, and we've got some things that we can do to continue to grow this industry. That breaks into three categories. 1.23% own a horse, 19.4% participate but don't own a horse, and the last circle over here is those that spectate but they don't own or participate. So what we as an industry want to do is try to move some of those people in this side over to that end of the column. This is a really cool little graphic that we did. It's in the appendices this year, and the question is, how did respondents become interested in owning or leasing a horse? And how many years have you been involved with horses? Not surprising, 75% of respondents have been involved in the industry more than 20 years. And you see the word cloud that we did here says almost always it started with a horse crazy kid, their family, a club, a 4-H, a parent, somebody in their immediate sphere got them engaged. So again, message to you guys, this is where we need to start. So we've concentrated a lot about youth engagement, and we're going to keep working on that. Okay, another statistic we did this time that we really wanted to share with you is we've been doing this equine welfare research. You heard about that a little bit yesterday. And what we knew was that there are a little over 1,000 501c3 rescues and sanctuaries across the U.S. That's not including mom and pop who throw out a sign at the end of the yard and say, I've got some pasture, I'm happy to accept a couple of horses. 73% is what the fill rate is. So I sort of round off and say, if we're about 75, that means we've got a little bandwidth of about 25%. What does that look like? But the most shocking statistic is when a horse goes into a rescue, they're there 303 days. Now, most people think about dogs and cats. They're in a shelter or in a rescue situation 60 to 90 days. If you have a horse that's there 303 days, you don't have a lot of turnover. And so capacity is driven by how long they're there, the length of stay. So that tells us we need to do some more work to figure out what are other programs we need to stand up, what are things we need to do to help the rescues get themselves in a better position so the horses get rehabilitated, they get rehomed, they get adopted, and we can make this happen at a more frequent basis.
Hi, I'm Kathy Blaine, and I am the program director for Loudon Therapeutic Riding. And as we wait for our distinguished guests to make their way up here, Julie, thank you to you and to the American Horse Council for inviting us here today. And your word cloud really spoke to us. We have a shirt for you. This is our version of the horse cloud, and it was produced by a group of students who live in residential inpatient behavioral health care. And Julie, I can't hold the mic and read at the same time, so if you would read just a few of the words.
Yeah, so what she's got on here is blessed, seen, safe, connection, respect, community, opportunity, authentic, promising, trust. There's just a handful of them. So some really great messages there.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We're so delighted to have you guys. Now, this is the slide that I think I shared with Kathy before the presentation, that just really blew my mind. So I compared the data we had in 2017 to 2023. Look at the jump in the growth of this particular segment. We went from 4,800 instructors to over 5,000. Total jobs were from 6,700 to 8,600. Facilities went from 877 to 1,500, and got annual impact, direct impact of 311 million to 810 million. You add in the indirect effects of all of that, and you can see the total annual impact jumped from 574 million in 2017 to 1.5 billion in 6 years. So this proves to me that we are seeing a huge acceptance of equine assisted services. We see anecdotally in news articles all the time, a lot more endorsement, a lot more support, a lot more interest in this, and we're seeing this entire sector grow like crazy. So with that, I'm going to ask Kathy if she would kick us off by talking a little bit about PATH International and some of the services and the things that they offer.
Equine assisted services has grown exponentially, particularly in the last 10 years. And by that, it's not just the numbers that Julie was sharing with you, but also in the types of services. I think everybody in this room knows the therapeutic impact of interacting with a horse, and we just keep discovering more and more ways of interacting with a horse that benefits humans and a way to have a mutually beneficial relationship with the horse. Just to give you some real quick stats on PATH International, we currently have almost 800 centers in the country and some outside of the country. Just under 4,000 members, just over 5,000 certified professionals. They're serving 46,500 participants. and the waiting list is 9,000 long. I share that stat with you. Oh, two more quick stats. The veteran population being served is over 5,200, and all of this is being done with just over 5,200 equines. So I shared the waiting list stat, the over 9,000, because there's a lot of people seeking this service that aren't able to receive it. Now, of course, there's lots of reasons, but one of those reasons is the horses. There's workforce development reasons as well, but one of those reasons is the horses that is potentially a message that I just wanted to share with all of you, because we've talked a lot about equine welfare this weekend already. We've talked a lot about looking for a second career or the next career for horses that are working in a different sector of the equine industry. Equine assisted services can be a fantastic career for a horse.
Shout out to all those centers out there doing this work, and I would like to introduce to you Karen Brown, who is a valued member of the LTR community and a veteran, and I know that she can speak personally to the benefits of partnering with horses and has been a part of our community since 2018, I believe. So thank you, Karen, for your service. We appreciate that very much, and we appreciate your being here with us today.
Thank you, Kathy. Sorry, unlike the gentleman from Kentucky, I don't have mine memorized. I'm from Massachusetts, I have to write things down. So yeah, I need to do something. Yes, so Loud Therapeutic Riding has, like Kathy has said, a lot of different types of students, but I have the benefit of the Equine Services for Heroes program. I don't really consider myself a hero, but I'm here to tell you how I've benefited from the program. But first, I want to say thank you for inviting me, Julie. I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to spread the word about how therapeutic riding can help individuals with all sorts of needs, not just mental health. I know I'm not perfect, but I know no one is. I know I don't have to share my past to be accepted. I know there's a place I can go when I feel stressed or overwhelmed by being around too many people, and knowing that allows me to feel easier being among crowds. When I was in the military, I was assigned to a role where I had to give safety briefings every weekend, and that was horrifying for me. I could barely manage it. I never spoke to a crowd bigger than this, or maybe about this big, but I'm doing it now. And I do it because I love LTR, and because of all that I've gained thanks to them. I do it because I can, because I've gained the self-confidence needed to, well, I wrote stand up, but I'm sitting down in a panel in front of all these other people and talk about my past. I do it so that others can learn exactly what the Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship is about. Well, once you say it once, then you can say it. That's how Mildred. So what PATH does, this is what PATH does. And I've benefited immensely from this program. Apparently there's 9,000 people waiting to benefit from this program. Do you have any extra horses? And I want to be able to help others as well. So that is what I'm getting out of this program, and thank you.
Thank you.